So the first thing is the start, right? So it's a big, obviously it's a big marathon. It's a world major. There's a ton of people there, right? And so uh, it's it's easy to get carried away that first stretch, right? There's a ton of people. There's a lot of people right at the start. There's a lot of people. You're pretty much right in that that heart of downtown area, just off the water. And you'll have a lot of people there just cheering, and it's a big atmosphere, right? And so you guys have to be careful here. It's you're gonna probably be slow, just if you're in the groups of people, right? Like I felt like at the start, being on the elite field, it was fairly crowded the first mile or so, and so I can only imagine as you get you know your 40,000 closest friends around you, right? And it's not a super wide area right there. It's not, there's a little bit of break there, but overall, I feel like you're pretty close to each other. So just be careful. And then if you've never run Chicago before, you start kind of right by the park, and then you kind of go up and then down. If you're looking at this picture here, just to the right of there is Navy Pier, right? So there's like almost, there's roads that go over, and then there's roads that go under out to the pier, and you will actually go under some of that stuff, and so it's easy for GPS to get thrown off here. And we've talked about in race strategy before, just that if you're keeping track of your splits, I would turn your auto split off, right? I personally don't like having the auto split on. I like taking the splits myself, and knowing what the map looks like. You can get a general idea of where the markers are. You might miss the first few, but overall you'll still be able to get your averages pretty well, though. So between if you're looking at this, when you're coming out of the park, you're going to be fine. But like when you're in this area here, you're going to be in that kind of that tunnel area. And so you just want to be really careful. You probably lose some of your GPS. So this first mile might be pretty off, but I feel like you can find that one okay. So just be careful there on the GPS. Like I said, I would turn the auto lap off and use manual splits, and just kind of keep an average of your paces there. And then once you do split on an auto split, or once you split a mile, it will start over. So ideally, if you see this side and it says 0.9, it is what it is, but then hopefully it gets back on track for these next few miles. But even through 1 through 3, 4 here, you're in the heart of the city. You have a lot of big buildings around you. And so it's just it's going to be hit or miss on that, right? Once you get north of there a little bit, it kind of opens up a little bit, and things might be a little bit better. But just know that like most people have issues that first mile. And then to me, it's easy to get frustrated, especially if you're like banking on these splits, and then all of a sudden it's not reading accurate, and it just throws you off, and then you're just surrounded by people. You're not able to take tangents, whatever the case is. Just take a deep breath, recognize that even if it's congested for you this first 5K, you'll be able to kind of get moving a little bit, and just even if you're a little bit slow, that's okay, right? We'd rather be too slow than too fast on this. And then on the flip side of that, it's easy to get excited too, because you will have so many people around here in this first 5K, especially from 1 to 3. You'll have a ton of people here. And you're in those buildings, right? So all that noise just echoes off of that building. I always thought it was just super loud through this section. It's easy to get really excited, and you have to stay calm as much as you can, right? And just kind of stay focused on the task at hand for yourself, right? And just kind of navigate this section the best that you can. But like I said, once you get past 4, really kind of up here, I'll have it in the next slide a little bit. But once you make this right, it's like I feel like there's a gas station over here, and it's a quick right and then a quick left. And once you hit this, like it's pretty wide open over here, right there. You can see the water, and you get away from those really big buildings for a little bit. They'll be on your left, but everything on the right will be pretty open. And that's you kind of can regather yourself at this point, right? So let's just jump into that one. And see what it looks like there. So yeah, so 5 to 11. So that's that little section I was telling you about on the last slide there. And once you get out here to 5, it definitely opens up. Like I said, you'll have the buildings on your left, but you can see here just by the map that it's going to be pretty wide open on here, and it's just a little bit more calm. I feel like you can really kind of regather yourself. A lot of times that wind is coming off of the water though, so I would say if you're in a group, try to tuck into this group a little bit and kind of let them take the brunt of the wind for you. But I always liked this section because it was always kind of like a refreshing spot where I could just kind of let my nerves settle down from just being in that excitement of the first 5K, and then just kind of regather myself. And this is where things kind of would settle down a little bit. So if you are super fast through that first 5K, 4 miles, this would be a perfect time to just kind of ease back on the throttle and get back into your rhythm, back into your groove, and just kind of settle back into the pace. And then once you get to 8, you kind of turn back into that. You're coming back into the city. You're going to be having buildings on both sides again. I felt like this would pick up a little bit more with noise. And the nice thing is, like, you have a lot of these people who will go back and forth between these sections here, right? And so you'll have a lot of people through this course, this part of the course, right? So it'll still be kind of loud. Once you get back over to 8, 9, 10, it'll start getting pretty solid again with the crowd noise. Not as much as the first 5K, I feel like, but it's still definitely loud. And then once you get through into those neighborhoods, it gets really loud. It's kind of a big party atmosphere. But again, it's easy to get carried away because, you know, in a perfect world, you're feeling pretty good. You've got some room to run a little bit now, and I feel like a lot of people can make some mistakes through here, just getting a little too excited, riding the emotion a little bit too much, and then pay for it later on. So so on the when you're going to the north, kind of settle in. And kind of get back into that rhythm. And ideally, you can keep that rhythm once you get back in here. You have a lot of straightaways here now, so you don't have very many turns. Like, you don't have any of these sharp turns here for a little while, so it's easier to get back into this rhythm. But the streets are a little narrower through here, so what people are there are going to be kind of right on top of you, so it is still pretty loud through there. And then 11 to 14. So now when I ran Chicago last time, I feel like half marathon was after you crossed the river. It was right after. There's a little bridge here going over the river, and then it was like right down here. But it's a little bit different now. So the half marathon is before you get to that point. But once you're in here, you're back into that heart of town, right? And so you can see when you were on the way out, there was all those people there. Well, it's only a block over, so it's still going to be a lot of people through here. So 11 to 13, if you're starting to feel kind of like the marathon's really starting to kick in, these guys will lift you up big time through here. So it'll be loud through here. After you get up past 11, all the way through 13, all the way through 14, I felt like was really pretty loud again. So that first half you do have some really solid crowds, but the thing is, once you get past 14, I feel like it starts getting quiet, and so you really want to position yourself well. Like once you get through halfway, just kind of get into the position where you can kind of I feel like once you're past halfway, you don't want to be by yourself. And most people won't have that problem, but make sure you're in a group where you can kind of just sit in the back. If you have to lead a little bit, you can, but there's enough people to do the work that you're not the only person doing the work and you're not caught by yourself, is what I would recommend here. Because once you get past 14, you can be in a position where if you're out by yourself, it's going to be a lonely trek for a little bit. So this section over here is going to be a little bit of a grind for you. Right. So once you get out here, I always felt like once we got out here, it started getting fairly quiet. So you get through 25K, there's still a fair amount of people, but this was kind of the out point, right? And then once you come back through here, but really by 17, so crowds are definitely thinner through here. They're not going to be as much as they were from like 11 to 14. Crowds will definitely be thinner through here. And I felt like once I got past here and made this right onto Halstead, it got fairly quiet. Like it was pretty quiet through there. It wasn't a lot of crowds. You're definitely alone in your thoughts. And the problem with that is that, you get out to 18 miles. This is where it's like, now you're really doing the marathon, right? Like you're starting to question yourself a little bit. To run the same pace is taking a little bit more effort. If you're starting to run low on carbohydrate a little bit, all these things are kind of kicking in at this point, right? So this grind can be make or break you, right? So that's why I said position yourself where you can be with a group of people. They're not, if you want to make a move and you're in a group that's way slower than you want to be, and there's a big gap to the next group, might be a little bit too much. You can start making that move here, but from a crowd standpoint, there's not going to be a lot of help for you. But it's not a hard part of the course by any stretch of the imagination. It's just awfully lonely, I felt like, through here. I always felt like kind of used the crowds as much as I could through 17, and then really kind of I was going to be on my own mentally till 20. Once I got to 20, you get back into Chinatown, and that's where the crowd is. It's loud, it's crazy back there again. So you have that 3-mile stretch where you're really going to have to kind of stay focused and just not lose your edge, stay on task, but then just focus on instead of saying, well, I've got 9 miles to go, just focus on getting to 20 and getting back to Chinatown, and then things will really pick up. Like I said, once you get through Chinatown, you're coming through Chinatown. This is a little different. I don't really remember this section, but it's nothing through here is too crazy. But once you get out of Chinatown, really, I think right around 21, you'll have the adrenaline from people, screaming and going crazy through Chinatown, which is always fun. And then once you get out of Chinatown, you can kind of ride that for a little while. And then it's going to be kind of almost to the point where it's like, oh, what happened, But once you get to 22, I feel like crowds do start picking up. This might be a little quiet from 21 to 22, but once you get back to 22, especially 23, you'll have decent crowds. And then you're only a 5K out, right? So it is a grind through here, but it's definitely a favorable the way the course runs. So if you can just keep your head in it, you'll definitely be okay. But really the big thing is getting to 23, making the right, and then you go down and make the left a little bit, and we'll show you that. But once you make that left and then left back onto Indiana, to me this was like, okay, now I got to just roll, because it's like one giant straightaway, right? And I'll be honest with you guys, like, when I was in the elite fields, like I would literally be like, I'd get to 22 and people would be cheering, oh, you're in 20th place, you're in 25th place, and then I wouldn't really hear anything. And then I swear to God, I'd get to 24 and they're like, you're in 11th place, and I'm like, I didn't even pass anybody, because people would just drop out. But if you can get to 24 and you're in okay, you have these big straightaways. Crowds are a lot bigger through here, right? They want to see the finish. You get that pick me up again. You get the noise coming off the buildings again, and it's really loud. There really isn't much like it, right? So Boston is loud, but you don't have like that surrounding of the buildings for that long. And here you do, and I feel like in Boston it's more wide open with the roads. And even like when New York as well, it's like 6-8 lanes of traffic. You don't have that on Michigan Avenue, and I feel it's like a little bit more narrow through there. The buildings, all the noise that goes off the building, it can get pretty loud. So if you can just stay in one piece to like 24, those crowds will definitely pick you up, and then you can be the one doing the passing and stuff. But as far as terrain, I mean, it's a flat, right? It's flat. You'll have some wind whipping around, so ideally you might be with some people, but like if you're gonna make a move, you better make it by 24. I think like once you get to the straightaway, boom, you want to be the one doing the aggression, right? You got 2 miles to go. You gotta make it happen. That's a straight shot. It's gonna be prime opportunity for you. The only thing I think, if you haven't run Chicago before, you make that right on the Roosevelt, and it's like, why did you put the one hill on the course here? Like it's literally up. It's up the overpass over the train tracks. You're like, what in the world, right? So just be prepared for that, right? And it's not a big hill by any stretch. It's going to take you like maybe not even a minute to get up it, but it's like, why now, right? But if so, just grind up that hill the best you can, and then you'll be rewarded when you make that left, because it's all downhill straight to the finish. And so you can, whatever time you lost on that hill, you can hopefully make up for there. And then again, crowds are really amazing through here. And so it'll be a big pick me up. But as far as it goes from terrain wise, obviously Chicago's a flat course, but I think your biggest stretch you have to worry about is that kind of that 17 to 20 mile stretch, because it's right where the marathon just tends to get hard. And it's off, to me it was the quietest part on the course. And if you can get through that, okay, once you get to Chinatown, things can things can really start picking back up again. But I think like once you get to Chinatown, it's literally like just focus on getting to the next mile. So get to Chinatown at 20, get to 21, get to 22. Don't even be thinking about all of this yet. And then once you get to 24, boom, start using those crowds and start passing as many people as you can. Grind up Mount Overpass, and then take advantage of the downhill to the finish. But fast course, I'm recording this Thursday the 6th, a few days before the 2022 version of the marathon. If you get a good weather day like what's looking like this weekend, you can definitely do some flying, and then hopefully you guys can get some PRs and some great times. But just my thoughts on running after running the course several times over the last couple decades. But it's a fun course. Definitely like with the different neighborhoods, you'll definitely have a lot of emotion. But I do feel the vast majority of the crowds are going to be the first half, and then half of the second half is going to be fairly quiet. And then once you get back to like 22, more like maybe 23, crowds will be really good. But from 20, so from 40K to the finish, the crowds will be really big again, and that'll be enough to grow. I think it was always enough to help me finish it. And I was feeling rough a couple of those times I ran it, and once I got to 40K and all those people were screaming, definitely picked me up. So just some thoughts on the course as you make your final plans as far as pacing and everything goes. But yeah, I think I will say this too, that on that backside, if you're going to face some wind, you can face some wind on that backside from say 14 to 17, 18, 19 miles. You kind of get caught in some wind a little bit, and then that first stretch of like 5 to 8, you can get caught in some wind as well. But and then you'll just have to deal with some wind whipping around the buildings. It's always a little bit of windy coming off the lake. But yeah, the biggest thing is just getting in a group of people that you can roll with. It's a course where you can get into rhythm, and you can go a long ways in that rhythm, and then just ride it out, right? And then so, excuse me, I think the biggest thing for a lot of people is just kind of zoning out that first 14 and not doing a lot of mental work, but not going too emotionally involved and getting too fast. Just keeping everything in check, and then using that mental energy to really grind out from 16, 17 on through 20, and then get back into the crowds through Chinatown, and then you should be able to make it home. So, all right, good luck to everybody, and yeah, we'll see you later.